Let's make seat sacks. First, you're going to start by making a front pocket. The front pocket is 14.5 inches across and 8 inches high. Go ahead and pin that pattern to whatever fabric you're using. I'm using ripstop fabric just because a nylon, which I thought would be a lot sturdier and hold up a lot better in the art room. Once you've got your front pocket cut, you're going to add a piece of binding tape across the top, just the top. The rest of it will be covered as you stitch along. Once you've got it opened up, that tape opened up, go ahead and put a couple of pins there, especially if you're using nylon like me, which can be a little bit slippery. From here, you're going to now do the exact same thing, but for the back pocket. The back pocket is 14.5 by 10 inches. So once again, pin your pattern, cut, and you're going to put your bias tape across the top. Now I'm using, like I said, a ripstop nylon fabric. I purchased 2 yards to make 4 seat sacks, and I have about a half a yard left over. So you could totally get away with purchasing 1.5 yards to make 4 of these seat sacks. You will need to get 4 packets of the bias tape. I only got 3, so now I'm going to have to head back to the craft store. Let's talk about this base part. It's a little tricky. It's 15 inches across at the top and 15 inches across at the bottom. 6 inches from the top, it necks down to 12 inches. And you're going to notice that in its entirety, it's 20 inches from top to bottom. Now begins the sewing part, my favorite. As you stitch along, make sure that you back stitch at the beginning and the end. Kids are going to be getting in and out of these seat sacks. You want to make sure that it's going to be bomb-proof for our little friends. So you'll definitely want to make sure to do your back stitch. So here I am stitching that bias tape that's both at the top of the front pocket and the top of the back pocket. Now, my front pocket has 2 extra little pockets. So to create that, I folded the front pocket in half. Using a ruler and a piece of chalk, I just drew a line where the middle of the pocket is. Once that was complete, I opened it up and I pinned the front pocket to the back pocket, matching up the sides and the bottom. Now, I'm going to start by stitching that vertical line to create those 2 little bitty pockets. Make sure once again that you backstitch. You might even want to use a pocket stitch, which is kind of like a horizontal zigzag, to really make sure that as the kids are getting in and out of that little pocket, it does not tear. So that part you might want to consider doing a little bit extra stitching. I was in a little bit of a hurry and I just wanted to knock this one out for y'all's sake. Aren't I nice? I'm a giver, you see? Now, this part was not my most favorite. Where the seat sack necks down a little bit, it's a little bit tricky to get that bias tape in and around, but bias tape does have this magical ability to kind of curve, so it does work much better than you trying to fold this over and hem. So definitely go with the bias tape. Just know that this part's probably not going to be your favorite because it definitely wasn't mine. As you're pinning, you're going to want to make sure that you get both of those pockets secured inside that bias tape because that's what's really going to anchor everything together. You're going to start at the top and work your way all the way down to the bottom. Now, I used, for this step, 4 pieces of bias tape, 2 along that curved side and 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom. I did notice on the ones from the Dollar Tree, by the way, the Dollar Tree is where I originally purchased these seat sacks from, and I used one of those seat sacks as a pattern, and I noticed that they were able to curve the bias tape as they stitched along. I'm not that skilled, so I went ahead and used 4 pieces. If you are a bias tape whisperer and you have the magical ability to do that, then I say go for it. Of course, I had to add a label. These labels, by the way, are from Dutch Label Company, and you can personalize them. So there you go. I had to add mine. How fun is that? Again, here are the pieces that I'm adding to the top and to the bottom. You will want to fold the bias in. You want to make sure to have all parts kind of closed in. Now, if you were to look really closely at my seat sacks, they are not beautiful and they are not perfect, but you know what? It is something called a seat sack, so it is not supposed to be pertified. So don't you worry about it. Just make sure that you don't have any parts sticking out so that your seat sack does not fall apart. When I was working on mine, I worked on these kind of assembly line style. I didn't do it piecemeal like I'm showing you here. Doing it assembly line style really helped me go a lot faster, meaning I did all of the front pockets first, then all of the back pockets. Once everything was pinned in place, then I just went around and stitched the entire thing. Now I know what you're thinking, how is this actually going to go over a seat if it's a flat piece of fabric? Get yourself some elastic. You only need 2 inches of fabric. You'll need 2 of those 2-inch pieces of, not fabric, elastic. You'll need that to hold your seat sack together. Let me show you. So if you remember on my pattern, my big pattern, I had my elastic drawn on there where it was to be stitched. Again, you can find those patterns on my blog. Go ahead and pin that in place, and then you're going to stitch. It's that easy. All right, guys. I hope that helps. I hope that makes some sense. Let me show you what the finished product looked like. All right, so seat sack complete. 1 down, 1 million more to go. The hardest part about doing this was stitching the binding on that curved part. That was probably it though. I mean, everything else is really basic. You saw it's just simple shapes. I did, of course, have to add a little label because, hey, if I'm going to make it, I'm going to sign it. So anyway, there you go. And making them in assembly line fashion is definitely going to speed up the process. So, yeah, thank you so much for letting me share this with you. I'd love to hear if you also use seat sacks in your room and what you use them for, and if you end up making your own. Thanks, guys.